If this is your first session, for those that have been joining us from the very first session, I think this is the sixth session workshop so far, which has been amazing. YPIT, a global community for young people in tech, finding creative ways to network, grow, and make impacts in Africa and globally through the use of technology. And that has been our mission since 2022. Carried out that mission through multiple events, online events and in-person events across multiple countries. And that mission has led us to the artificial future, which was our own way, which is our own way of solving the AI gap problem when it comes to Africa. Can you guys confirm you can see my screen, please? Thank you, Alice. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Now, why are we doing this? And what was the reason why we thought about this? If you think about some of the earlier solutions or earlier technology that you used or you came across, these were solutions that were built out of Africa, but we had to either use it as they were or localize it and then use it. They were not built primarily with Africa in mind. And that's one of the reasons why when the this new, I wouldn't say new trend, but for the sake of this, I will say new trend of AI, we started to think that we cannot be left behind again. We can't, go back in circle and 5 years from now, we are seeing solutions that we are using solutions that were not built primarily for Africa, and we are having to localize. When you hear about solutions that were built in Silicon Valley and then Africans take a percentage of that solution and try to build it for Africa, we want to flip the switch. We want solutions built for Africa first, to start in Africa, and then we can take that to the world. And that's one of the main reasons why we're doing this. What does it look like? We have built this over 3 main pillars. The first one being education, which started on the 30th of April, which was designed to provide information and resources to builders first, right? So that's why we said if you have zero technology background, zero technical background, you can come into this because firstly, you will be trained and provided with the resources you need to go on and do what you need to do on the hackathon, right? So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is practice and building this actual solution and practicing it, right? And that is where the hackathon comes in, which starts on the 30th of May and runs through to the 6th of June. And here the idea is to practice what I've been learned, try your hands out, get into the depth, figure things out, depending on the track, just make something work, right? We all have unique problems that are unique to us, unique to our countries, unique to our regions. And by virtue of that hackathon, we have an opportunity to test out some of the solutions that we have been thinking about, but now have the opportunity to build with AI. And the final part of that pillar, of those 3 pillars, is exposure. And this is going to be done through an AI conference at the heart of Lagos. And it's supposed to bring in 500 to 800 people that have participated in the hackathon, AI enthusiasts, policymakers, everyone in the same room to discuss the problems, discuss solutions, discuss ways of implementing these solutions. And those are the 3 main pillars that the artificial future is built upon, right? And I already spoke about that. These are some of the key dates. April to June, the workshops are ongoing. The hackathon starts this weekend. Looking forward to it. And the conference on the 13th of June. But today's session is brought to us by and in collaboration with Tonative. And why when I said I was very excited about this session is because when I think about how I learned my local language, it wasn't really written down anywhere. I mean, I learned it in school for on a few classes, but it wasn't really written down. So many of the things that we picked up were from, how our parents told us about it, how our parents gave us the language, and we just took that on till now. What Tonative is trying to do is bridge the data gap when it comes to local language, bridge it onto the point of things like tonation, how you say it, how you drag out some words, and that's why one of the reasons why I'm very excited about this session. I'm going to have a quick practice session for everyone that has joined so far. So if you could just unmute your mic and say good afternoon in your local language. Let's stick to good afternoon. Just give it a try. Say good afternoon in your local language. I will start in Yoruba. Good afternoon goes as Ekason. Another person, please.
This is the actually.
That's you. Another Yoruba Ekole, which means good evening. Thank you. Another person willing to jump on the thread.
Okay,
Hi
barka da
guys, it's
rana
Kaya
in
from
Hausa language.
Amy.
Okay, okay. Sorry,
That is
guys.
important.
I apologize. You know what? Would you just raise your hand first, and I'll just pick it. I'll just pick like 3 or 5 people. Raise your hand so we can do it orderly. Okay, I don't see any hands raised right now. I know a few people wanted to give it a go. Okay. The first person on my list is engineer. Go on.
Barka da rana in Hausa language.
In Hausa language. Thank you, engineer. Surajo is next.
Nyalli jam, that is in fulfill the language.
Where is that from, please? Pardon.
Come again?
Where is that from? What country? What tribe?
Nigeria, Fulani, that is fulfill the language.
Fulani.
Yes.
Amazing, amazing. First time I'm hearing that, and I'll be here all my life. Okay, thank you. Next person is Cynthia. Cynthia, give it a shot.
Hi everyone. It's already nighttime at where I am, but in the Luo we say
Okay.
Oimore, which means good evening.
Oimore. Nice, nice. Lovely to hear that. I'm going to take 2 more. Thank you, Cynthia. And those will be Alice and Abdul Rashid. So Alice first.
Hello, everyone. So in my
Hello.
language, we say Osibiotia.
Which means good afternoon, Sibiotia. So
Yes.
I hope I try. Oh, perfect. Thank you. And Abdul Rashid.
Hello, everyone. I speak Yoruba from Nigeria. My people will say Ekurole or Ekudede Woyi.
Thank you very much, everyone that jumped on. I'm going to hand over now to the Tonative team, who will be taking us on this amazing workshop from this point on.
Thank you so much, Toby, for the very kind introduction. My name is Cynthia Moll. I have a lot of people from Tonative on the call, but myself, Sharon, and Cynthia, the other Cynthia, called Mihaki, will be taking you through the session. I think maybe towards the end, if you have enough time, then we'll have people introduce themselves if you're not too many on the call. But I'm hoping for a very interactive session. So I have a lecturer who usually says, I don't want to be teaching and other people are cooking in the background. So we're going to try apply that today. It's going to be quite interactive, just asking a lot of questions, learning a lot from each other. And hopefully by the end of this, you learn as much from me as I also do from you. As Toby said, this is going to be a very, not too technical. So you don't have to be worried about, not knowing enough about AI or model training. It's not a hackathon in the traditional sense of, people training models, writing code and stuff. So it should be quite straightforward. If you're a speaker of any language, be it an African language or even English, then this is the session for you. So don't really worry about a lot of the technicalities. Allow me to share my screen. Please confirm that you're able to see my screen. Okay. Thank you so much. So as I've said, my name is Cynthia Moll. I'm from Tonative. I'm co-founder and also head of data. We have so many subdivisions and we'll be talking about Tonative a bit during the session. So hopefully by the end of it, you're motivated. I know most of you are already part of young people in tech, which is quite important because I believe young people are carving their own paths. You're not waiting for opportunities. You're not waiting for things to be given to us. So by the end of the session, if you're part of why young people in tech, you can also be part of Tonative because it's a very open community. But also I believe within your communities, you're already contributing a lot. So that in itself, I know it, makes all the difference. So we'll start a bit with just introductions, who we are, what we do. I'll let my also co-panelists or co-session leads also introduce themselves. They'll speak later on, but it's very important for you to just know them, hear their voices, so that as they present, you'll also know a little bit about them. I've talked about myself. I'm head of data at Tonative. I'm also co-founder. I'm also a PhD student and have a lot of passion in African languages. I am a big fan of books. I read a lot. And so that also translates to the work that I do with just how can we represent our languages. Sorry, you can't hear anything? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I can. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. I think
For me, that might be just you. Yeah, network. Thank you. Go.
Okay, thank you. So as I've said, I'm a lover of storytelling, I'm a lover of books. And so my intention is usually, how can we then represent our languages, the way Toby says, the way that they're spoken, how can we represent them in AI modeling? As you understand, there are a lot of, challenges with African language representation in current AI systems. And that's you're no stranger to that. If you've used any of these models, then you realize that sometimes, you don't get the output that you wish for. And that's why, developing data sets, developing models that represent us quite accurately is quite important. And that's what we'll be talking about all through. So I look forward to taking you through the first part of this session. I also would invite Sharon to introduce herself a bit and what you do at Tonative.
All right, thank you so much, Cynthia. Hi, everyone, and good evening, Nigerian time. So my name is Sharon Ibeji. I'm a co-founder at Tonative as well. So I focus more on coordinating and overseeing every activity in Tonative. So the community as well as the different services that we offer. But aside of Tonative, I work as a data scientist. I also do NLP research. So my background has been a combination of industry and research without a PhD in brackets. So I'm honored to be here and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Cynthia? Oh, sorry, Muihaki. Today we'll call you Muihaki so that you don't confuse the two Cynthias. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, Cynthia. Yeah, I'm Cynthia Muihaki, or you can call me Thuo. For those, it's hard to pronounce the name Muihaki. Yeah, Thuo, I guess it's much easier. I'm a linguist. Yeah, I'm a master's student as well, and I'm a tutor at Tonative Data Academy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So Cynthia will be taking us through just a brief overview of what the Tonative Data Academy is about. And you'll find out that, throughout this process, if you stick to the end, the way Toby says, the end of the weekend, end of the hackathon, and of everything that comes after it, then you'll realize why we have Cynthia here and what the Academy does and why you should get involved. So yes, stick around until the very end. A brief outline of our session. So we have a two-part session. I know you promised a demo, very practical, hands-on. So that's what we'll be doing on the second part. If you're on your phone and you're able to switch to your laptop, I think it's easier to use it. But even with your phone, you'll still be able to use it because we have some very practical sessions towards the end. But the first part of this discussion, and we're not calling it a workshop in the sense, it's going to be a discussion. So it means that I'll be sharing some things. You will also be sharing some things with us. So it will be more of, a two-way street. So we've started with introductions. I think we've done that, and Toby has done a very good job at that introduction. And then we'll talk about AI and African languages, because as we talk about building that data skill gap, bridging that data skill gap, it's very important to know why. Why are you doing it? And I think also Toby has brought that up. If you have a reason why you're doing it and you understand the essence of what you're doing, I think you get even more motivated to work even harder, but also to empower other people to also engage in activities that promote our languages, right? So we'll talk about AI and African languages and why African languages matter in AI representation. And then afterwards, that's when we'll dive into dataset curation, what we've done so far, how you can get engaged. And that will also feed into the practical of how can you transform a dataset from mere sentences to a format that is machine readable, a format that is quite quality that you can use to train an actual model. And then we'll also talk briefly about the Tonative Data Academy, what we do with just training the next generation of native linguists. And Cynthia will take us through that session, just giving us a highlight of what the Academy does. We have run a pilot, so we'll give you like a narrowed down version of the pilot that we had, and it's quite an interesting session. So as I've said, if you want to learn about linguistics, morphology, phonology, how language is represented, and why that is important in model training, then you're in for a real treat. So what is AI? And this is where I will start the questioning with. So if you're in a noisy background, you can move to somewhere that is a bit quieter, because I don't know if I should call out names or you'll just raise your hand, and maybe Toby will be able to do some moderation, because I'll be asking a lot of questions. So what comes to mind when you think about AI? I know that we are a mixed group, so not everyone here is an AI researcher, or not everyone here is an AI developer, but we've in one way or the other interacted with some of these AI tools or some of these AI-powered tools in our day-to-day, right? Sometimes you use a product and you don't even know that it's powered by AI until you're doing something and you're getting feedback and you're like, okay, so AI is at the background of this. So I really want to know the kind of audience we have. I know we are varied. We are some researchers, some very technical people, but what kind of AI tool have you interacted with before, especially within your native language? Have you ever used like a voice assistant or a text generator, and what was your experience? So you can have maybe one or two people share what tool they used, what language they were using, and what kind of experience they had, whether it was positive or negative. So I'll start with myself as you prepare yourself. So as I've said, I really love literature. I love books. I love poetry. I write. I read a lot also. So one day I was trying to use Claude to be able to generate like a poem in my native language. And I was very shocked. It was actually not too bad, because the Luo that I speak is actually spoken by a lot of people, and I think it forms a bit of training data for Claude. And so this kind of brought it home that, these are some of these global products, and this is the other side of AI that people don't talk about. I know we talk about the negatives of we're not represented, the negatives of, this doesn't work for us, but we have to also acknowledge the efforts that have been put in representation. So it was actually quite good, but not to an extent of a native speaker. I was reading it and I could see that it was written by someone who was struggling with the language. But I think, those are some of the initial efforts. So that for me was a positive, but something a bit negative that I've also used a product for. I was actually doing research for a certain talk that I was doing, and it was about, skin disease. So I gave it was Nano Banana, the Gemini image generator, and my prompt was generate, I have eczema. Can you generate 10 images of how eczema looks like? And of the 10 images, 10 of them were just white skin. So it was the very light, Caucasian skin that you see. And I think that is the experience with most people when you use generators, image generators. It usually defaults to the training data that it was given, which is mostly white people. So for me, that was the positive, but also the negative. So maybe you can hear from one or two people what your experience has been with either AI-driven products or even AI tools.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Cynthia. I think Abdul Rashid, your hand is still up. I don't know if this is a new hand or the old one. Engineers, definitely a new hand. Please go ahead.
Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, there was a day that I was searching on Google about AI around 2023. So I come up with one AI that is generating songs. So I prompted to generate a song in my language, Hausa language, and he used like American voice, and the thing is, it was very terrible to the extent that I cannot even share it. So that is like my experience.
Thank you so much
Perfect.
for that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other person? Or even Toby, have you ever used any of these tools before?
Yeah, I used Yarn GPT to try to just do some translation from my local language to English, and yeah, I could tell a lot of discrepancies in it. So yeah, but I mean, it still tried. So positive and negative.
Thank you. You said Yan GPT, it's the Nigerian one, right? I think it was created.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's great to see that, despite the progress with a lot of the customizations that are being done to global models, they still struggle. And it's upon us. If you want, I always think of, AI training as teaching a child something. If you tell them something and they say it wrongly, you have to, repeatedly tell it to them the right way so that they learn how it's said. And that's what AI training is all about. And we'll talk about your contribution in creating these data sets or in creating these representations that could be used to train AI. So there's a lot of other tools that maybe we won't explore now, but nowadays I think in healthcare there are a lot of these AI powered tools that try with diagnosis and things like that. And also another field that is up and coming is the finance, where you have a lot of this mobile credit scoring being AI powered, and the bias that comes with it. It's a very long discussion. I think when we start talking about bias in AI, we'll stay the whole night here. But those exist, and despite the advances, as I've said, there are still some gaps, and that is the gap that has led us to be here, and we'll be talking about how we are trying to fill that gap. So data quality really affects AI output. I talked about the anecdotes of teaching a child something. You remember when you're learning language or you're learning math, the kind of math knowledge that you had when you started school, maybe in kindergarten, and the kind of math knowledge that you have now, you just see the difference. And this is because over the course of so many years, you've really consumed knowledge. I call it consuming knowledge, or you've learned a lot from either your teachers or either reading books or some of these other ways that you've learned how to do things. So for us to get to really quality output, the training really matters, right? And AI, as you know, it's trained using data. But unfortunately, currently, based on the research that was done by GIZ, only 2% of the training data comes from Africa. So you can just see where the gap starts. So a model could be marketed as a multilingual model. And I know most of big tech right now is marketing a lot of things as omni. You hear it's omni, it's everything, it's everywhere, everything. It's marketed as a multilingual thing. You see, Yoruba is represented, Hausa is represented. But when you test the product, then you're able to see just what quality or to what extent efforts are made to really integrate that multilinguality. So this is a challenge that exists. We have over 2,000 languages, and I know we all know that. I know most research papers in NLP always start with the whole 2,000 plus languages. Always makes me laugh when I see it. But of all these over 2,000 languages, we only have 2% of those in training data. So we can kind of see the discrepancy, right? So, and most of this data, when you look at it, it's web crawled data. So maybe at this point, I also ask, how many of us use their native languages online, like on social media? Maybe you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, on TikTok, and you create content in your local language, or on LinkedIn, you write any content in your local language. Do you do that regularly, or is it still in the colonization days of just English or French or Portuguese? Who has ever written content in the local language online? Do you have anyone?
Engineer, is that in your hand?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. My name is Yusuf. Like most times, it's always like, because the general language is English, so it's just like once in a while that I use like Yoruba, because I'm from Nigeria, especially from the Yoruba. So it's just once in a while, not that much.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. That applies to most of us. I think we've been, kind of conditioned to think that if you're writing in English, then you sound very smart. You sound like you know what you're saying. You sound like you're very learned. And so people shy away from that. And that's something that I've been sharing with Sharon, my co-founder, of how can we, we complain a lot about how we don't have enough data to train AI models. And most of the data we know is web crawled. How can we then use our local languages, even the posts that we make on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on some of these, a lot of these other platforms? How can we make it accessible for people? If I want language, I know that I can go to a blog which is in Yoruba, and I can get text from there, and I can use it to train my model. So how are we, with a lot of pride, bring and these things, because most of it you find whether it's on Wikipedia, then it's maybe AI translated, automatically translated, and so the accuracy and the authenticity of this data isn't as natural as you'd expect. So it's not that high quality. This data that you output definition of what input it was given. So you have, a lot of hallucinations of, you ask a model to generate something for you. So is stereotyping your culture. You find some of these things that go on. And so for us to be able to really integrate our languages into AI, then it all starts with you. If you speak a language, that's a gift that maybe you're given by your parents or your grandparents. I know most of us, as Toby said, you learned language from your parents. So how can you pass this language? How can you use these digital platforms to be able to also preserve your language? Maybe, have it written somewhere so that your kids can be going through your work and be like, my mom used to blog in Dulu, and I can read it and I can learn something from it. How are we having a lot of pride in our language so that we become the ambassadors of our languages? And that's what we also feed into our next session. We'll be talking about how to contribute as a language speaker. There's research that has been done by a lot of researchers, but this is one thing that Professor Vukosi posted recently that we were looking at, and we were seeing just where the discrepancy falls. So it's very easy to have this blanket of, our languages are not represented, but they try to kind of break it down to just see, how many languages, where are these languages not represented? We have language models, we understand that, right? Just think of, if you're not quite technical, you can think of ChatGPT as a language model. It runs, on the background is a language model on it. So we have, and ChatGPT is a large language. It's built on a large language model, right? OpenAI. And then we also have these benchmarks that kind of look at languages and try to see how languages perform against certain metrics, right? And then we have speech technologies like automatic speech recognition, which I think is one of the technologies that I feel could work for the African setup, being that most of our languages are actually oral. So when you look at this figure that you can see on your right, you find out that over only 150 of those languages are in speech recognition. So you can just look at the ratio of that, 150 to 2,000, and just see what difference that makes, right? And in over the 2,000 languages, only 64 of them are in benchmarks. Only 64 of them are being actively investigated by NLP researchers to just see how they perform against many benchmarks. And you know that if you're not really researching on a language, then it kind of gets behind in terms of the digital revolution. And out of, over the 2,000 languages, we only have 20 of them in language models. So this gap is quite wide. It means that over 99% of our languages have no meaningful presence. And if this doesn't make you mad, I don't know what will, right? So this should be enough to, give you reason to really contribute. If myself, it could really give you enough motivation to be able to either, build a data set, contribute so that your language is not among the 99% that are left out. As simple as just, a sentence, as simple as just recording your voice and uploading it somewhere so that someone can use it to train a model. We'll talk about also equitable ways and ethical ways of data access and all that, and that's a whole different conversation when you talk about how our data sets are being utilized out there. But I believe that the first step is that contribution. Have it somewhere. You can use it yourself to train a model. You can have it somewhere open source so that someone can use it to train a model. But whichever way you're contributing, it's quite important. So I also take a breath here just to check. I know we mostly know about Masakane, right? Anyone who's into NLP, who's into African languages and AI, know about the Masakane community that has been creating a lot of data sets. But outside of Masakane, you have Zindi, you have a lot of these other communities. Any representation from any of these communities here. If you are part of a community that is doing data set curation, or if you've created a data, maybe you can share your experience. What did you do? Was it exciting? What to do? If there's anyone who has that story, that's briefly. Anyone?
Yusuf, Yusuf raises his hand, so we'll take you first.
Okay. Okay.
For me, datasets was actually not about language, because recently I was working on computer vision project, so like on a curation project. So it was very surprising that most of the data sets are readily available, which are public. They don't represent here around Nigeria. So it takes a lot of stress for me to because it's like my final year project, so I have to work on it. Though it was, but I find it interesting because taking charge of the data, and it was very interesting. It was very interesting.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
So maybe, I don't know if you could expound a little.
Patience, there's another.
Sorry?
There's another person. There are two more hands we received
Oh.
here. Patience and Kojo. Patience, you can go first, and then we'll go with Kojo.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation so far. I think it's helpful. I'm Zimbabwean, based in London, but I'm actually working on a pilot project to create that I come from a production background, and I want to bring some of that discipline to AI. But so far, the creating that has been a little bit of a challenge for me, I think, which is why I'm on the platform, which my background meeting the actual technical side of things and how to turn information into a working data set. So that's been my experience so far. I mean, I've managed to secure one advisor from an AI company, but you can only draw so much on that. So yeah, it's a bit of an uphill battle, but something I'm doing on the side day by day. And I hope one of these days I'll have an actual Shona language data set from Zimbabwe.
Adenda Patience. Koji?
Yeah, good morning. So I was part of this project as a community linguist at Linguistic Island. This is a community of African linguists. So we created this data set as a community. It's about some African languages, and the data set is about common sense reasoning. So that means that you are trying to create a data set that will help AI system to be able to reason about things that are not necessarily technical, but have to do with common sense. So we contributed the data, and it's a global project, and the paper is out now. It's online, in global pick. There is a part of other title too. So overall, the project was exciting because it was my first time creating data sets. So I really enjoyed it, and I hope it will be useful for the future of AI and African languages.
Thank you so much. That makes me so happy. Yeah, it does make me so happy. And imagine how many billion people are in the world, if we had like 1 billion people excited to create data sets that way, how much training data would we have for our AI projects? So that's quite important. And now I want to also point out the irony of, sometimes when you think about data set creation, it's a very expensive process, it's a very tedious process, and it takes a lot of time. So maybe when you think about it, it's very hard for you at that point. You're like, it doesn't make sense to me now. But when you're training a model and you're seeing this kind of gaps, you go online trying to search for data sets, and you're like, if you only had also created something. So it's usually at that point of training where you're feeling like, we don't have enough data sets for this. I don't have invitations. I need more data augmentation to be able to get to lower my word error rates, or to be able to get to this accuracy. So it always starts with you. If you can create a resource for someone else won't that you're in. So it starts with such efforts, and thank you so much. Invite everyone else on the call to be of such projects. And there are always so many of those, whether it's volunteering or even just a paid data set curation process. It's quite important to get involved and get engaged and get excited. So thanks to everyone who's contributed to that segment. So I also would like to now transition from the work that we do and just how we curate data sets, right? We are moving towards now the data conversation and how to get some of these skills. So there are several ways that we at Tonative have handled data set curation. We have so many pipelines that could be applied we have the human-only approach where, you know, you have that. This is the traditional methods where you go to the field, ask people to either record their voices or ask people to contribute text. And I think this is one of the most common ones that are usually used, right? And as we know, it's a very expensive process because you fields. Sorry. Yeah, you have to go to the field, you have to engage people, you have to have a somewhere where someone comes and records.
What did you say?
Pardon?
Sorry about that, Cynthia. I've taken care of it. Go on.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. So that human-only approach has a lot of challenges. That's the manual approach that we know. I think you're trying to generate maybe a generic data set, you're trying to use some of these LLMs or any other formula to be able to kind of just auto-generate some of these data sets. Maybe you don't have the data set for something, you need it quite fast, and you're giving out prompts so that you can be able to generate like either a dummy data set for your simulation or a model, or you're just trying to kind of augment the data that you have in another data set that is generic in that sense. So you have that technology only approach, and we all know that it's garbage in, garbage out when some of these text generators. So if it has already inherent bias, then that bias will reflect in your data set. So if you train your model using that data that is already biased, then the bias actually shows in your model. So there also are some of these cultural and linguistic nuances. And I know if I give an opportunity for us to all explain something unique about our culture, or a way that we say something in our culture, we'll take all day, right? And Cynthia will be also talking about, Cynthia will also be talking about, you know, culture and how to enter these very nitty-gritties that we have in languages, so that our models form like real world models, right? So we'll talk about that later on. But this technology approach sometimes there's those cultural nuances. You have some things that are very generic, and I had this during the beginning discussion. Using a model, it doesn't sound right? Yeah, it's, you know, maybe the grammar is correct, the idea is correct, but that's not just the way we say it, or that's not just the way we speak that, we read that word. So that authenticity is lost in this technology only. Then we have the hybrid approach, which has been used in a lot of pipelines, and it's the pipeline that we use, which is the human in the loop approach. We are trying to use real people who are speakers of language, native speakers or linguists. Of both worlds. You have someone who is, whether it's cultural accuracy, it's contextual, have the technology where you can generate very large samples of data in a very short period of time, and it's not as expensive as a human-only approach. So this hybrid approach is what we'll be teaching you, what we do, and Sharon will be taking you through our pipeline and how we will to integrate humans and technology together to be able to create, to be able to scale, basically, because human only can create, as you know, can go so far. If you incorporate technology, you can be able to scale quite fast. You can be able to create data sets that actually represent real culture, right? So from this point onwards, I'll tell you a bit about Tonative and our approach, and I'll come in later on just for the demo so that you can be able to see what we do some practical examples that you were promised, right? We promised you a very practical setup. So have your laptops ready, have your phones ready. I think after Sharon's presentation, then we'll dive deep into the demo session. Thank you so much, Sharon. I don't know if should I continue presenting or you present on yourself?
Yes, please continue. I'll just read from here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Cynthia. Personally, I enjoyed your session. Felt like I was learning all of these afresh again. And yeah, so I'm just going to continue from where Cynthia stopped. And everything she has said is more like the major thing that provoked the existence of Tonative in terms of bringing people together, like minds. You know, we all want to solve this problem to a very large extent. You know, whatever language you can speak, just join the community, and then we work on data together across different languages. Now, what exactly is Tonative? As the name implies, so native, so, you know, going native, you know, just trying like convert some of these technologies that we have that are more represented in Western culture to our native languages, right? So majorly at the beginning of the framework we picked up was the human AI, because of like it's more cost effective, more scalable. It's a way whereby we already appreciate the efforts that has happened in existing AI systems, like the example she gave with creating poems in your native language by LLMs. Now, when we have created by AI, we know that there are lapses. Now, can a human review that poem? Reward some places to sound a lot more authentic. Rather than coming from scratch, whereby you have to create that poem yourself at the beginning. So that was the initial idea that we started with, and with that we've been able to create quite a number of open source data sets, which you can find on our site, on Hugging Face and our Hugging Face account. So basically, to try to reduce that manual load when it comes to creating data, because we know that it could be painstaking, it could be boring, it could be tiring, and when we have an automated system in the middle, perhaps it will reduce some of this fatigue that comes with creating data. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so what does our pipeline look like? The very first step with creating data, just like Patience, I like this sample that Patience gave, where you first of all think about a problem. What am I trying to solve? The same example that Yusuf gave. You're trying to create curation data set. You have a problem in mind, and then you think about data. And now, when you want to work on data, you don't just work on anything. You don't just put in your efforts in anything because you have the ability to. The first question is, why is this data important? What can it be used for? Who can it be useful to? What cases, what scenario would this data be relevant? Now, when we have such conversation, we're able to narrow down different use cases and decide on what exactly is important in terms of data sets. Now, when we identify this data, it could be an existing data set. Think about we have maybe a news data set in English language, right? Now, if that data is useful, can we translate that data to our native language? Can we replicate that data sample so that it doesn't just exist in English, but it exists across multiple languages that we are covering? So that's where the seed data, the selection is very important. And now when we do that, we then apply an automated pre-annotation layer. Now, this is where we talk about the automated system, making use of AI systems, LLMs, code pipelines. Yeah, so what this does is that if I have this data in English, for example, can I pass this into an LLM to help translate it to a native language? And now, if it translates that to a native language, or maybe it's not a translation task, perhaps I want to label data. Maybe I want to identify hateful speech or abuse. Now, can I pass this into a system that can help me do that labeling automatically or the translation automatically? Now, when I do that, because LLMs are not at the point yet where we can trust them with our language, it's important that we have language speakers to review. And this is where we have a quality assurance layer, where language speakers, linguists, look through this translation, look through the labeling to ensure that it tallies with what we expect it to have. It imbibes the cultural relevance that we expect this data to have. Now, why is QA relevant? For example, if we think about translating things by LLMs, you would agree with me that over time, if we only stop at the automated layer, over time, we will begin to deteriorate our language. What we're referring to as A will over time be referred to as B, because now we have a model that we are constantly using and we are not validating. Yeah, so that means that we'll begin to have robotic languages, which over time will be irrelevant to the speakers that we are trying to cater to. Think about building a system or a data set that will be used in healthcare. Now, when we have models that cannot pronounce words properly, or we have models that instead of pronouncing words in a native name that we call them, for example, maybe malaria, perhaps in your language, we had a native name for that. And now we had an LLM that was unable to translate that. And over time, we keep making use of LLMs. Now we'll end up redefining malaria from your translation to malaria as an English word and phasing out the native translation of malaria. Therefore, when we want to apply that data to a model that will be deployed to native speakers in rural areas, they're unable to comprehend the meaning of malaria because there was no validation layer. So that becomes a problem, and that's why QA is very important. It's important that we have people to review. If in some cases we have 2 layers of validation to ensure that the quality of data that we're putting out there is not just that we want to put out data, but want to put out something that would actually be relevant. And then lastly is that when we do this, and then when we build models, when we continue to build models with better data sets, we'll begin to have models, LLMs, that perform better than they currently perform. Do you all agree with me? You can just thumbs up if you understand the picture. Awesome, thank you. Cynthia, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so an intro to Data Academy. What exactly is Data Academy for? You would also agree with me that as a native speaker, many of us, we learned our languages at home based on interaction with our family, our friends, our neighbors. And when we are coming into the world of AI data sets, in as much as we speak these languages, sometimes we have challenges. Sometimes we do better speaking than writing. Sometimes we're unaware of why using a particular tone mark in your if your language requires tone marks is important. Sometimes we think we can just waive it. We can just use A instead of A, with a mark above. Yeah. So Data Academy helps to teach language speakers on how to create data properly. You already have the main skill, which is speaking a language. You are, shall I say, you are 80% there, and then you just need a little create data properly. In terms of why quality is important, in terms of why this Delivery Academy, we also teach you the tools that you can use for your translation task, your validation task, the keyboard, some of the limitations that we have, and how we are going about these things. So Data Academy is just that bridge, connects you between your language skills to your data skills. So like we mentioned, your soft skills, your data and AI, data collection process, data governance, annotation skills, and techniques. Thank you. I think I'll be handing off now to Tuo to take over. Am I right, Cynthia? I think she's coming next.
Yes, Cynthia will be coming next. Can I continue sharing, Haki, or you can share?
Yes, please continue sharing. It's much easier.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
Go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So we're engaging in linguistics and morphology. This is very, very key and very core and very important, even when we are trying to be translators, be validators, and everything. We need to understand the language. We need to understand the cultural norms that are in this particular language. And so this is where linguistics and morphology comes in. And in simple terms, maybe for those who are not familiar with the word linguistics, it's basically the scientific study of languages. And in order for you to understand Tulu, in order for you to understand Swahili and how to translate English text to Kikuyu or English text to Kinyarwanda, you need to understand its DNA. And what are these linguistics DNA that I'm talking about? We have phonology, which is basically sounds, the tone. We have morphology, which is word formation. We have syntax, which is sentence structure or understanding how these words sit together. We have semantics, which is actual meaning, understanding the meaning of a word. And to some other extent, we have pragmatics, where we study the meaning itself in context. And having this background of linguistics, this is where I want you to come in with a simple task. There is a word in English, which is a 3-letter word, very simple. I think David began by asking us, how do you say good evening in your native language? And different speakers talked about how they say good evening in their own languages. So we have a sample of a simple word, English word, I love you. It's a 3-letter, it's a 3-word sentence. And I want you to raise a word, maybe need like 4 or 3 samples, maybe a Zulu, an Igbo, a Yoruba, whatever language is represented here. You just share with us how you say I love you in your words, in your language, sorry. Maybe you can raise your hand.
Yeah, just raise your hand and go, please. Engineer?
Okay, in Hausa, we have like different pronoun for male and female. It's not like you. So if you can say like, if you want to say I love you to a male, like I say, ina son ka. If it's to a female, then ina son ki.
Oh, yeah. See, in Tolu here, they say the hairy. There's someone else with a hand. Engineer,
Hello.
are you raising? Okay. Yeah,
Hello.
so we've had a hairy. Which other one?
Yeah, we had Yoruba as well in the chat by Abdul Rashid. He said, yeah.
Zed, please go ahead, and Yusuf later.
Oh yeah, good evening everybody.
Good evening.
I have already sent it in the chat, but I'll probably just say it again. So in Fulfully, I'm going to say Nidima. And it's neutral for both male and female.
Nidima. Thanks. I think Yusuf, you raised your hand as well. Diamond.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Okay. I love you in Swahili we say nakupenda.
Nakupenda. I think I know that one.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for all of you who have given me your insights. Yeah, I can see even in Kikuyu here, there is a representative, Negwedete. Yoruba has already been represented. In Igbo, it's Ahur Mege. So I can talk about a common characteristics in Bantu languages. A common characteristic in Bantu languages, you find there's a 1-word sentence. There is Negwedete in Kikuyu. There is Nina Kupenda in Swahili. There is someone else who has said Dino Kunda in Shona. So there is a one word sentence. And but in English, we have seen in English it's 3-word sentence. I hope you can hear me. I'm sorry, it has begun to rain where I am. So I hope you will hear me. Yeah, thank you. So an English-trained subword tokenizer does not understand the architecture of, for instance, if I take the Swahili word Nina Kupenda, which is I love you, we find ni is the I, the first person pronoun, then na is the tense, which is now, who is you, and then penda is the root, which is love. So instead of splitting it by those meaningful grammatical boundaries that I've given you, it might, lazily based on letter frequency, result in it in something. If you see sentence, for instance, you're using ChatGPT, any translating tool that you're using, it misses the internal structure. So the machine completely destroys the internal grammar and it effectively becomes blind to things like subject marker, tense marker, object marker, to a very terrible translation. And this is why you as a translator or a validator, understanding your native language morphology is very, very important because it bridges the gap. When you understand the morphology, when you understand that the tense marker ni, the tense marker na, nina, yeah, na, which is now, means right now. It's not like I will love you or I had loved you. It's very, very important when you're translating or when you're validating. Next slide, please. Yeah, so why are we here? Why are you here as a translator, as a validator, as an annotator? There is linguistic inequity or rather inequality. We find AI trained on Western word space logic. And so incorporating whatever the AI has been trained into the African language, that's where we will find a very nonsensical translation when you're translating it to African language. Another thing, there is data flaring. What do I mean? The existing linguistic African resources are poorly preserved, or rather they remain undigitized. So whatever we have been undocumented, and that we are trying to ensure that the Luo language, that Kinyarwanda language, that Zulu language has been documented. It has been documented correctly. And this is the solution. We are here to collect that data and feed it to the machines or the engine up to there. So the translation validation trap, I want to maybe give a sample. For instance, someone can act as a validator. Someone who is a Swahili speaker, they can act as a validator towards this sentence that has been translated. Rudisha huo mlango. It's a Swahili sentence. Rudisha huo mlango. Then there's a translator who has translated it as return that door. So as a validator, how can you validate that translated sentence? Any Swahili speaker among us who can aid us on that? Any Swahili speaker? I can pinpoint someone. I have seen Ezekiel here. I've seen Mary. Mary Diga, please. If you're in a position to talk.
Someone had asked that you say the phrase again.
All right, Ezekiel Minor.
Iraqi, someone has asked that you say the phrase again.
Any Swahili speaker among us then?
Okay, Diamond, as well as you can go.
Okay, when you say that rudisha huo mlango, in English it will be translated as close that door, not return that door.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, this is where I want you to see that literally is not good enough. You need to understand the basis of the context and the cultural norms. When someone say rudisha huo mlango, and then a translator say return that door, you have literally translated that sentence, because it means like someone had picked that door, ran away with it, so he's being told, you know, return that door back. But in real sense, what the sentence means is close that door. So validating data isn't just checking spellings, checking morphological agreement. Look at the tense, look at the plural marker. All these things play a role when we are translating, when we are validating. Subject matter, tense, object marker, roots, extensions, all these play a role when we are validating a sentence. So if you have a validator, for instance, is someone raising their hand?
Yes,
No.
I have a question. So I
okay.
don't totally agree with when you say that. I don't know if I get you quite well, but when you say that rudisha huo mlango, it literally means close that door. It can also mean rudisha huo mlango, rudisha. If someone picked it, says you say it depends on the context. Because if it's literal, I can say funga huo mlango. So that's literally speaking funga mlango. So rudisha, it can mean get bring the door back. If I picked it, for example. So I don't think I get you quite well, if that's what you mean, or yes.
Okay, thank you. Though I've not really quite heard you so well because it's a little bit noisy here because of the rain. But yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to give it a try, but I don't think I'll do it justice. Cynthia?
Yeah, I can pick it up from there. So Cynthia and I live close by, so it's also raining where I am. And I agree with what Ashuza is saying. It usually depends on the context. I think rudisha huo mlango, if you're meaning it as an, not like an idiom per se, but there are some of these words that you can't take them literally. Yeah, they mean something different. So I agree with what Ashuza is saying. Depending on the context or depending on what you mean in that scenario, then it could mean any of those, and it could be correct in any of those scenarios. So yeah, and I think this is where even the discourse becomes even more interesting. One word or one sentence literally to the idioms and the similes that we use. Cynthia, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So you understand the context, the cultural norms, so that you may understand whether it's an idiom, it has been said metaphorically, so that you can be able to translate it in the correct manner. Then on to data. I know there are Igbo and Yoruba speakers here. You can help me if you're an Igbo or a Yoruba speaker. There is this word, but yeah, I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's B-A-B-A. I don't know where you raise the intonation and where you lower the intonation. So I would like a Yoruba and an Igbo to pronounce it to mean one, a father, and the other, an onion. Yes, Fadipe.
We pronounce our father as Baba. Baba. To pronounce onion, we will say alubosa. Alubosa.
So that is in Igbo or Yoruba? Yoruba. Thank you so much. Is there an Igbo among us, please? In Igbo? Yes, Sharon.
Yes, so in Igbo we have something like aqua. So aqua means egg, and then we have aqua, which means then we have aqua, which means cry. Yeah, so if someone wants to say I bought egg or I bought clothes, you have to be very specific in your tone. So you could say as
I think I'll be more Igbo.
Okay, so same thing. So in Igbo, there's Ike and there's Ike. So Ike means strength, Ike means buttocks.
Nice. Abdul Rashid, do you want to try something similar in Yoruba?
Okay, yes.
Yoruba.
That same word, yes, that same word that we use father in Yoruba, when we say Baba. So when your tone change a little bit, there's another word that you can say. You can say Baba. I think that one actually means something like millet. It means millet, a type of like should I call it crop? That's a kind of meal that we eat in West Africa. So that is the difference between the two. So alubosa, which is the meaning of onion in Yoruba, and baba, they are not similar, especially the way you want to use it in this context. So
thanks, Abdul Rashid. I think we'll take engineer from the Hausa and then we'll head back to you, Milwaukee.
Okay, in Hausa we have a word that we call gado, means inheritance, and if you change it to gado, it will change to bed.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all of you who have given different examples of tonal words and their different meanings. We also have that in Kikuyu, where, for instance, you're saying Iria. Iria can mean milk, can mean an ocean, can also mean those ones. So it depends on how you phrase or how you pronounce the word Iria. So it's Iria for those ones, Iria for milk, and Iria for an ocean. Yeah, so that shows how important tone and pitch it comes to validation and translation. And I want us to have this in mind. When you have already validated or when you have already translated a sentence or a word, when you take it to your grandma or your grandpa in a village, when he or she reads that particular sentence. We laugh or agree to whatever you've written. So basically what I'm trying to tell us is let us avoid robot speaking, because we are Gen Z, majority of us, and the background or the foundation of our native language, we are not really firmly grounded on it. Yeah, so let us not avoid the robot speaking. Let us check on morphological agreements, and let us verify the cultural norms, which is very, very important. And lastly, Cynthia, there is the data desert reality is something that we should be worried about, and that's why we are here, to ensure that we have solved that problem. You know, compared to English, even a massive language like Swahili has over 100 million speakers. And to top it on that, it's an official language in the AU. It's a data desert. Just imagine in this digital realm. And we aren't just lacking the data, we are lacking the quality. We are lacking that morphologically tagged data. And so tomorrow when the algorithm processes your mother tongue, will they hear the music of your morphology, and that when you say the words that you have told me, for instance, Baba or Baba, what will they be meaning? Or for instance, Direda Iria, will your soul be asking for milk? Or because we didn't show up to code the DNA ourselves, we as African language specialists, will the machine look at your heritage, flatten your tone, and think you're merely pointing at those ones? And so how do we fix this without waiting the Silicon Valley? So are you ready to contribute your mother tongue to this oasis? Am I ready to contribute my mother tongue to this oasis? It's a question to us, and I will wrap it there.
Thank you so much. Cynthia has a way of explaining things that a quite simple way that makes you think a lot about what you're saying and think about your next action. So thank you. Cynthia is one of the 3 linguists that we have at the Tonative Data Academy. So I hope that also gives you motivation to get involved, get engaged, work on your own personal projects. So I see we just have around shy of 20 minutes left. So we'll make good use of it, do the practical bit. We've talked about, just as a wrap up, we've talked about African languages and AI and why our languages matter in AI. And now with this discussion, we've talked about the particular structures that are quite important when looking at language, so that you don't just contribute anything, but you're contributing quality, right? So this next discussion will be led by Sharon. She will demonstrate some of these products that we're creating. So aside from the data sets and the data academy that we have, that we're trying to train native speakers on how to represent their languages, we also have realized that there are gaps within tools and techniques that are used when you're looking at African data. And these gaps motivated us to create solutions beyond just the trainings, right? So we have some toolkits that we use, and Sharon will do a demo of that. And using these tools, then we'll be able to annotate or translate a real data set and see how that could, make this difference that Cynthia was talking about within language representation generally. So Sharon, I think you can share your screen now.
All right, thank you. So I'm just going to share my, but Cynthia, before you stop, let me just go through this slide and I'll share my screen briefly. Yeah, so I'll just talk more on the language keyboard and Cynthia's with the annotation and validation tools. So what was the motivation behind the keyboard? When we started working out native, some of the gaps we identified was that when you're using your laptop, for example, we do not have access to keyboards that contain African languages, particularly the languages that we were covering. So one situation where we have a single tool keyboard where any language annotator can just click on it and make use of it. So I've dropped the link to the Chrome extension in the chat. So we submitted this to Google and thankfully it was accepted. So now the extension is public, so anybody can make use of it, even beyond data annotation tasks. So I'm going to share my screen now, and then we can move on from there. Okay, so so if you click on the link, if you're on your laptop, please just click on the link in the chat. It should bring you to this page. So once you're here, for those that are familiar with installing Chrome extension, it's still the same thing. What you need to do is to click on Add to Chrome, and then extension. Very fast African language keyboard. Now, how does this work? So I'm just going to show you, for example, where or how you can apply it. Sorry?
Pardon my interruption. I don't know who has installed it already. Maybe you can give them just 2 minutes to do the installation. Yeah, you can just have your hand up so that we see at least have majority installed, so that as we move forward, we are able to. Yes, thank you so much. Alice, just leave your hand up so that we see. I think once we get to like 10, then we can proceed.
Yeah, so if you're here, just click on Add to Chrome, and then it takes like 2 seconds, and that's it.
Okay, thank you, Samuel. Anyone experiencing it, you can either post on the chat or you raise it and we can take you through step by step. So the link is on the chat. Just click on the link. It takes you to a separate tab, and then you add to Chrome.
Click on Add to Chrome.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Sharon, you can proceed.
Awesome. Thank you. So how does this work? Okay, Yusuf, you can always make use of that link, or you can just Google it whenever you need it. You can just Google pronoun keys. Don't forget the name, pronunciation, and you'll see that's here. Yeah. So awesome. So now how does this work? The idea is that when you're working on any documents, even on your Twitter page, if you have your Twitter open on your desktop, on any page at all, any tab that you go to, even your Gmail, right? So it works across every tab that you go into. When you need to type something in your local language, for example, if I'm on my keyboard, my laptop keyboard, in Igbo language, we have these dots that comes under the O, like a dot. Now, if I press the O button for a long time, these are the options I'm seeing. So I can't see any option that has the dots beneath the O. I see that's a limitation, right? So with the keyboard, you're able to tackle that problem. All you have to do is, let me just minimize this. All you have to do is to click on this extension icon on your laptop and then select the icon, which is this. So once it's open, you toggle this to be on. So you can see that it's off right now. So toggle and it's on. Are we on the same page? Are we at this point? This point, just thumbs up. Awesome.
Please, can you explain a little bit?
Can I go back again? Okay, fine. So what I said is
a bit slower too.
Sorry, something. Okay, so when you come here, you click on Add to Chrome. Have you done that? Awesome. Now, once you have that, you come here, you click on the icon. So every Chrome extension has this icon for extensions. So just click on it, and then you have, including the one that you just added, which is Tonative key. Are you at this point? Awesome. Now, once you are here, just click on the specific extension of interest, which is this one. And then when you click on it, by default, it's turned off. So all you have to do is to turn this button to on by clicking on the button. So just tap on it and then it's on. Are you also at this point? Okay, cool. Now, once this is on, you have a list of different languages. You can just explore this on your own. So you can see that we have Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, Fon, Wolof, Swahili, Amharic, Zulu, Soha, Xhosa, Shona, Gala, and the like. So different languages. So all you have to do is select the language. For example, if you're working on a task that is Igbo, in my case, just click on the language and that's it. You can just click out for this to go. So if you've gotten to this point, let me know. Just select your own language. Okay, cool. I need more hands up, more thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, that's cool. So now once you have this, you can see that you have the keys here. In my case, I was struggling to type the O. So now I have this O button. So when I tap on it, it copies and then I can paste. Yeah. I'm going to take that slowly now for you to understand how to make use of this keyboard. It's very straightforward. For Google properties, Google Doc, Google Sheets, Gmail, and the likes, when you tap on a key, it doesn't automatically paste. So it doesn't automatically appear on the documents. Rather, it copies to your keyboard. So what you have to do is that it copies, it tells you copied, and then you have to paste. But if you're on other pages like Twitter or any other sites, once you click on a key, it automatically appears on what you're typing. Is that clear? So now to solve the problem for Google Sheets and the likes and to improve experience, we have like an inbox, like a chat box or an input box. Just click on this compose pencil key, and then you can see that you can type in here directly. If I want to type something like Asusu, AS, typically if I was on my keyboard, this is what I could have done. Yeah, but now this U requires the one with the dots. So what I will do is on my laptop, I'm just going to type A with my laptop keyboard, type S with my laptop keyboard. But now for you, I just click here, then S, and then click here. And if this is all I wanted to type, I can just copy all and paste, and then I move on. So if you are typing the African type normally, right? And then you can always make use of the keyboard when you need to type something in your native language. Are we good? So I could also try, for example, Twitter. So let's I want to type in something here. So if you can see now that whatever I'm typing, okay, I think I'm seeing a bug right now. I'm not sure what's going on. Okay, so whatever thing you're typing, there's a problem. Okay, I think we'll look into this later. But anyway, for our use case here, Google Sheets and Google Docs, with it can effectively work, but I'll try to fix that. I'm really sorry about that. So that's all about the tonal keys. I'll hand off to Cynthia. I would like to also note that the languages that are mostly represented here are those that require tone marks. But if your language has a tone mark and it is not represented here, please let us know. You can put us an email and we'll try of these as well. So thank you. Cynthia, over to you.
Thank you so much. I think there's something about demos and just software working or not working. If you took any technical course and anytime you do a very good project presentation and on the last day on your final presentation, things just happen. I don't know the curse with that, but yeah, thank you so much. I hope you have seen how tonal keys work, and I hope that you also have installed it, because for this next phase, I see that we are over time, but I'm requesting for just 10 more minutes so that we do a practical session using the keyboard. We can also show you how we label our data. So I'll start with how we label data. unfortunately, the platform is close to community members, but I can just do a demo of what we do, and then I'll give a real data set that we can translate in the next 10 minutes, and then I think we can wrap up from there. So allow me to share my screen again. And so maybe I didn't mention this at the beginning, but at Tonative, we have so many divisions. So many, meaning around 4. So we have the engineering team, we have the research team, we have the validation team, and we all have social management team. So these different groups play different roles. So all these products that you see were developed by our engineering and research teams, and the validation team's role is just to use this machine translated data and be able to use that. So I'll show you a sample of the data set that we're validating now. Maybe just a few people, you can just type in the chat which language that you speak, and then I can maybe sample like 1 or 2 people to see how machine translated data look and what roles validators play in just correcting these translations. I can start with the Luo as you type. So any language, I hope that is a language the cover, because depending on who we have in the community able to validate. Run of projects, we are doing an agriculture data set. And so what there's an open source agriculture data set that was in English, and we've been able to use very I want to call them Afrocentric models because they're trained on a lot of African languages, but we use Afrocentric models like No Language Left Behind to translate these data sets into these languages. And we prefer these models because validate So this tool was also customized by our research and engineering teams. So yeah, if you are into things like that, you can always also join the community. It just gives you an instruction on how to label. So this is the English data set. It's generally a balanced fertilizer with that is recommended for sandy soil. However, the exact dosage may vary depending on the soil conditions and the age of the plants. So this gives you an opportunity. So this is the machine translated text. This has not been validated yet, as you can see. So what the validator does is they go through this text, and then they're able to correct whether it's something contextual, whether it's spelling, whether it's just off by some means. So they are able to validate that, and we have several validators working with agreement and things like that. So this is how the machine translation go what is off or what is not. So generally, Kumranyisi, which is correct, a balanced fertilizer is already off. You can see this part if you speak to Luo. It's a bit off. I think it talks about like a balanced beam or something. Yeah, in the translation. So a literal translation there. And I think this usually is just translated the same, but usually prefer for the words, for the they convert them to like the word form. So, and then they just read that and validate. So we have several of these statements. If you're unable to validate this, you can always just skip, and it prompts you to give, it prompts you to the next sentence, and you're able to check. So you check for punctuation, you check for spelling, you check for context, and some of these very, nuanced things that the machine text usually. So this was just uploaded this week, so not a lot of validators have worked on it, but it's a current ongoing project. I don't know if there's any other language speaker so that I can one other language, and then you can tell us how the machine translated data is and what you can do to correct that translation before we go to the other dummy examples that we have. Any other language speaker? Sorry. So there's Hausa, yes, Shona, Mashi, Kinyarwanda. So we have Swahili, we have Yoruba, we have Hausa. So maybe we can take one Hausa from engineer, and then we can do one Kinyarwanda from Ashuza, and we can also do one Swahili for Diamond. So let's start with. You can start with the Kinyarwanda because it's the first one I see. Yeah, So who volunteered for Kinyarwanda? How is this sentence? Because I don't speak Kinyarwanda, unfortunately. How do you find that sentence?
Can't see clearly. Would you mind zooming down?
Yeah, sorry about that. I think this works.
Nigute nshobora kugezura ikwiragwiza. Would you want me to explain it?
No, just to tell us if this translation is as accurate, depending on that.
Oh, I didn't see up here.
Yeah.
How can I control the spread of fungal disease in my tomatoes plants? See. Not too bad. I don't know a lot of agriculture because I'm not a native.
Oh, okay.
I'm based in London, so you know, a lot of words here are new for me. So
yeah,
but it looks somehow. It looks somehow cool. Let me just pick it and check it.
Okay. Yeah, I think because of time, but I'll paste this on the chat. I can just copy everything and just paste it on the chat. Then you can tell us later on. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes,
So
I'll
I think we also have Hausa. Maybe you can tell us how accurate. So this is how we're just trying to demonstrate how you can utilize technology, like some of this machine translation, so that the validator's role is not to translate from scratch, but check the content. Sometimes you find out that the sentences are actually quite accurate. It just needs a little bit of help. So this is Hausa, the Hausa speaker on the who volunteered. Maybe you can tell us what's missing in the translation.
I think that was engineer.
Yeah. We have engineer, we have Surajo. I hope
Surajo as well, from Hausa, representing Hausa. Engineer, I think, has dropped off. Surajo, do you want to give you a shot?
The translation is not that bad, but you know, Hausa is a gender language. And for a word, mummunan in part was supposed to be mummunar. The construction honors mummun in fall army one in particular. But the rest of the translation, apart from this phrase that mummunan in part is okay. This phrase only I have issue with it. But for the rest of the sentence, it's okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's enough.
Yeah,
yeah. So these are some of the roles that validators. So even with very good models, you can use the same model for different languages, and it performs very differently. Someone who understands the language to be able to just correct some of those small nuances. So human judge technology can be brought together to be able to scale some of these efforts for data curation. Yeah. So I've shared a link on the chat. The link is just for a sample data set, right? And this is, I know that we are time barred, so we can even, you know, after this, you can practice yourself. Just try to find ways that you can translate this sentence and see. You can even take the same sentence and paste it on Google Translate. See the kind of translation that you get, and give your own translation and see how that compares. Just for you to be able to gauge, you know, where we are at in terms of depending on technology to do all the work. I can share my screen briefly. So so these are just sentences. You have the first sentence here being like, how can I the spread of fungal diseases on my, sorry, let me merge. Yeah. Like, how can I fungal diseases in my tomato plants? You can do the translation there. Try using a machine to translate, see the difference. What is the recommended dosage of fertilizer for growing strawberries in sandy soil? You can do the translation and see where you fall short. I know even with native, sometimes for very domain specific data, you look at, healthcare, agriculture, technology, some of these domains become very challenging when you want to translate. You can be very good at a language, but then there are just words that you don't know how to translate, right? And I think that is an experience that we also had here. Yeah. So do that. Or language pair just means, it's English to which language. So you can just add, you can make a copy, you can even make another tab, and whether you're doing English Swahili, you're doing English Hausa, you're able to indicate what pair that is. And I think we can continuously keep this open, and within our networks, just share some of these things. You can even validate the whole of it and upload it on your own Hugging Face, or share it with very many other platforms, and someone can utilize these data sets to train their model. I think that's it. Sorry, the practical was very short. I think we underestimated how much time 90 minutes is.
No, but amazing. Thank you so much, Cynthia. Thank you so much, Sharon, and thank you so much, Cynthia, again. It was an amazing session. I personally learned a lot. Engaging session as well. As you might have noticed, there are a few questions, though. I mean, a couple of questions, actually, that might your attention. The first one was from Obaso. Please pardon me again if I mispronounce your name. For language that has over 1,000 living native speaker, what do you suggest in keeping? Gather sufficient data to preserve. What do you suggest in keeping sufficient data to preserve for languages that have got over 1,000 or that's got 1,000 living native speakers?
Yeah, I think this was hinted at by my colleague Sharon, who was talking about seed data. Sometimes, and now with the models that we're developing, you have a model that is already trained on a language that you just need another sample data set to just fine tune it, just make it learn more patterns. So for me, right now, what the work that I'm working on for my PhD is how can we build domain specific data sets? So look at, that's what we're doing even with agriculture. Get data in X domain, get a very large model, just fine tune it and see how you can leverage representation from whatever other languages it's learned. There's something called cross-lingual transfer that if you're interested, you can always look it up. But some of these models, you don't really need to start teaching it from scratch. So how can we generate very high quality domain specific data sets? How can we generate data sets in very different scenarios? Someone talked about common sense reasoning, just those very high quality things that you can't really get from a generic data set or a generic data set. So it's about those very conscious efforts to just develop data sets that work and that represent those innate things that we can only get from the 1,000 people who speak that language. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's a very wide discussion. I don't think it can be answered in one sentence.
Yeah, thank you. I hope that answered the question. I understand the structure of going after domain-specific data to help solve that problem. But thanks, Cynthia. Guys, I imagine that we've gone over the time by 15 minutes, but if there are any questions that you have, please feel free. Muigiri?
All right, so thank you so much for the event. This is my first time joining, and I've been learning a lot. I didn't know that. I've been just seeing Tonative on LinkedIn, but didn't know that it's a huge community. So thank you so much. I have one question. Do you work with voice data?
So currently we started just the text pipeline, but voice is next. So we are developing some speech products that are still in the development phase. So we are just doing a bit of testing, but because, you know, text goes so far. For African languages, I think if you want to build an AI-driven tool, then very powerful tool. So that is the next phase that we're looking at. We are trying with the product first, testing with the the Google platform and the resources it provides before we go into the data set that we can use to, as I've said, just fine tune, just make these products work well, work better than they work with the generic models.
All right. Is there like I have like 3 questions. You excuse me, please. Is there a way to join the community maybe?
Yes, that is in the next slide. So
Okay.
yeah, Sharon can talk briefly about this hackathon.
Like I'm not run this, by the way, but I was just messing up. I'm learning Kinyarwanda because I'm based in Kigali. So I'm working on a project.
Yeah.
We are kind of collecting voice data sets in around 8 languages in Congo, 8 Bantu languages, which are sort of dying. So we are eagerly looking for communities like that does the same thing in languages, so we can learn more about how are we going to maybe collect those data, what are they about data curation, so all of that. So I'm really interested in joining the community and learning more about it, so we can be able to do that work. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ashuz. I think collaboration is where it's at. You know, we cannot do it alone. It's 2,000 languages.
Exactly.
A lot of us in Africa. If everyone is just working in their silos, I don't think we can make a difference. So yes, the community is open. I think Sharon has also typed that on the chat. Our contacts we'll share. I think Sharon has shared. Yes, tech@tonative.org.
The last page. Yes, maybe anyone that wants to visit the URL can just.
Yeah.
But I'll drop the link to the chat as well.
Yeah, I think you said that that's the next slide, so maybe we can go there and then we'll talk about the hackathon and close.
Yeah, so if you'd like to join the community, I've dropped the link in the chat. So it's just simply visit our website, native.org. There's a community tab there. So you click on it, or you can use the link in the chat. So either one is faster. And then if you're also interested in joining us at the Data Academy, if you want to enroll, you can also go through the link I'll be dropping in the chat as well. So you could just enroll. Our next cohort will be coming up in June, so you could be a part of that. So luckily we just completed our pilot now in the community, and this is the first cohort that we're taking outside of the community, so it's going to be a very good experience. So yeah, so I'll drop the link to the Data Academy in the chat as well if you're interested. And yeah, so now we could talk about the hackathon, which is actually what brought us here, and it's something that we're actually looking forward to. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Guys, perfect. Thank you for sharing that. I was going to share my screen just to brief everyone on what we've been up to date, and then what's to come. But I would like us to drop a lovely whatever reaction to the Tonative team for an amazing session. Thank you, everyone. Joining from different parts. Amazing. Very quickly, I will walk you through. Just let me know when you can see my screen. My laptop is a bit. Can you guys see my screen? Can you guys? Oh, I think my network is. Just checking out. I'm sharing my screen, but I'm just checking that you guys can see it. Perfect. Okay, great, amazing. Okay, so yeah, we just went through one of the. Yes, you guys can see my Go Chrome extension there. Proudly Yoruba. I'm going to start using it now. saying what's up with that. Thank you to the Tonative team. The workshops that were put together for the Artificial Future Hackathon and the conference, in isolation, they do a lot of good, right? But together, that's when it really, really makes an impact. And we've had, 6 sessions now to date, including this one. We have 2 more coming tomorrow and the next. For designers in the house, we'll be getting a lot for this workshop, and we'll put together something that's going to happen tomorrow. And then we've got something around the metrics as well for African speech model, which is, in line with what we just learned today. So the website to catch up on this is theartificialfuture.com. I'm just going to drop that link in the chat. What am I doing? I'm literally typing when I could have copied and pasted. Oh my days. Yeah. So that's the website with what we are doing with YPIT at YPIT and Artificial Future. The hackathons will cover 4 main tracks. Yes, YPIT, etc. You can jump virtually. The hackathon will cover economic and financial access, local language and culture, one of which we have covered on this call, education and skill building, and healthcare access. It's going to start on Saturday, so the registration is going to close very soon, guys, very soon. The link has been dropped in the chat, so if you want to tap in, it's just one click. In 2-3 minutes, you'll be done with your entire registration and be part of a team in no time. And post that, we have a lineup of speakers as well, which is going to be the conference on the 13th of June, happening in Lagos, but available virtually to our global audience. And you're not going to be left alone when the hackathon starts, believe me. There is a room full of readily available mentors that are going to guide you through whatever problem statements that you're facing, building, and that will be from May all the way through to the 6th of June before the conference itself, right? So if you're not already registered, now is the time to do it. I think it's been an amazing session. I have to say thank you again to the Tonative team. If you're looking at joining the YPIT community as well, the link to find out about the YPIT community, join the YPIT community, and as we always say, YPIT is a community of communities. So you find community members like from communities like Tonative, communities from sales, communities from design, different communities under the same roof. So if you're looking to be part of that, it's a global community in tech, and we're actively always taking members that are looking to network, looking to grow, and looking to make an impact, not just in Africa, but globally. And we'll be happy to have you with us. But that will be all from me. And again, another special thank you to the Tonative team. Please stay in the loop with what we got coming on. And the next session again is tomorrow. If you're not registered, please make sure you do that. And thank you so much for the 2 hours we've all spent on this call. I think it's been worth it. I don't know about you guys, but for me, it has been worth it. Thank you, and we'll see you at the next session.